Kahmia!
Hi everyone, welcome to the January 2021 edition of Farsight's Human News, the remote viewing news forecast show that tells you what is going to happen, not what did happen. I'm Courtney Brown, Director of Farsight. Now, before we begin, let me tell you about our next major mysteries project that will be coming out on January 15th, The Mystery of Puma Punku. That's right. Puma Punku is part of a large temple and monument complex that is found in Tiwanaku, which is in western Bolivia. And it's said that the Incas believed that the world was created in Puma Punku. It is a really old site, dating back at least 1,500 years and maybe much more. It is thought that the site, at its peak, held a civilization that was simply dazzling in the high culture sense of the word. But because the site is so old, modern people don't really know much about it. Most of the great stuff has been looted over the years, but what remains are stones, big stones, that were used in the construction of the monuments and the temples, and these stones hint at a past that seems impossible given the technology that was available back in the day. For example, there are precision-drilled holes in rock that clearly look as if they were done with modern equipment. And many of the stones seem impossibly big to have been transported to the site from other locations. In short, no one really knows what was going on with Puma Punku when it was constructed or when it was at its peak. Well, I can't say really no one, because we do, and you will know what went on at Puma Punku as well on January 15th, only on FarsightPrime.com. Also, our Time Cross project is being restarted in January 2021 this month. This show will be monthly and it will be available on FarsightPrime.com. We have two new remote viewers who will be featured in this show, Intisam Goldsmith and Shantae Gibson. Now, they did their intensive training during 2020 and are now ready for prime time. They will be joined by the senior remote viewer, Melena Hall. Now, the series is being produced by PrinCess Jeaneé, and I assure you it will be a big hit among our audience. Now, I know that you all want to know the topic of the first episode, so I will tell you. The topic of the January episode of Time Cross will be the apparition of Mary that occurred to 3 shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal on the 13th of May, 1917. Well, as it turns out, there really was an apparition, just like the kids told to all the villagers of Fatima, but it wasn't the Mother Mary. You will really want to find out who it was, so stay tuned to FarsightPrime.com and find out in January. Now, we are not entirely sure of the exact day of the release, but we will announce it on our newsletter as well as in the notices for our subscribers to FarsightPrime.com. Now, the show will be in English on Farsight Prime, of course, but we will also post French and Swahili content for this Time Cross episode on YouTube as well as we continue to reach out to an international audience. So, stay tuned. And I hope you are enjoying the pearls that we are publishing in our news and mysteries projects. The pearls are hints at what is coming at Farsight, short dramatizations that capture either something that actually happened in a project or a new thing that is happening in the pearl itself, such that the pearl is the actual event that relates to our projects. Each pearl is numbered so that you can keep track of them. Also, on FarsightPrime.com, we publish an updated single video containing all of the pearls, one after the other, so that you can refresh your memory and collect your thoughts. The pearls are a way for you to participate in our discovery process as we move from project to project, allowing you to incorporate hints of what is coming into the results of currently published projects. Most of you know of our efforts to engage extraterrestrials who can contribute in a positive manner to the future of humanity. You should also be aware that pressure is truly building to push the disclosure process along more rapidly. Some government agencies are leaking authentic UFO footage to the public and clearly stating that this is real UFO footage, such as the following footage recently released by the U.S. Navy.
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. Oh my gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Also, the U.S. Congress just slipped into the recently passed COVID-19 bill a UFO disclosure mandate for the Pentagon to spill the beans about UFOs within the next 180 days. So some members of Congress are getting much more pushy about wanting to hear the truth. Now, the Pentagon may not be able to do this since such information is not really controlled by the executive or legislative branches. Democracies have their limitations, but the pressure is still building and people are becoming more open about demanding information. This, of course, means that others will be fighting back. Efforts will continue to be made to confuse the public, such as by calling one group of extraterrestrials the Galactic Federation, when in fact they are the opponents of the Galactic Federation. There will also be clever efforts to discredit groups and individuals who want to push the disclosure agenda. This is the basics of psychological warfare, and that is what is going on now. What seems clear is that important sectors, both for and against disclosure, seem to be watching what we do at Farsight. We appear to be making a difference. Don't expect this to sort itself out in the blink of an eye, so be patient as the months move forward. But at least the movement is in the right direction, however long it takes. And remember to learn how to meditate. You can find videos on how to do that on our website, farsight.org. Also, for those of you who want to learn how to remote view with an instructor who can both teach and give you feedback on the application of methods and techniques, remember that PrinCess Jeaneé and Trudy Benjamin both separately teach Farsight's version of remote viewing. If you are interested in personalized individual and group classes, you can contact them at princessviews@gmail.com and info@trudybenjamin.com. So here is a summary of the major stuff happening on farsightprime.com, our streaming service. On farsightprime.com, you get all of our major releases, past, present, and future. Plus, we have the extraterrestrial news show, Farsight's ET News, and you also get the Farsight Intelligence Briefing hosted by myself. This intelligence briefing is live streamed, and you can join and ask questions live, and the recording of it is on farsightprime.com forever. And then on the 15th of each month, we publish our next major mysteries project, and in January 2021, it is the Mystery of Pumapunku. Additionally, on farsightprime.com, we have our monthly economic forecasts. These monthly economic forecasts give us a window into the larger picture of the developing human drama, so they are relevant to everyone, not just investors. We are decentralizing a bit, and the economic forecasts are going to be done by Aziz in 2021. He's an expert in the application of Farsight's economic forecasting methodology, and you are going to see that passion in the new releases. We are finalizing some of them now, so stay tuned. And it all happens in January 21, in addition to the rebooting of our Time Cross series. Also, our SECO program working with cryptocurrencies has turned out to be remarkably successful. We are going to be increasing the output of our SECO forecast in 2021 starting in January this month. It's all very interesting and exciting stuff. Information relating to our SECO forecast can be found on our website. We are finalizing our January SECO forecast now, so stay tuned. One more thing. We have been trying to find a way to express to our audience some of the sci-fi-ish feel of what we do at Farsight. Now, what we do is real, not fiction, but our reality is often more out there than most science fiction shows dare to go. Well, one way we have been experimenting with is to create still graphics that convey some of the otherworldly nature of our work. We have no way to showcase these still graphics on our streaming service, Farsight Prime, or on YouTube, so we created an Instagram account that is specifically dedicated to these graphics. You can find it on Instagram if you search for Farsight Prime. Most of these graphics have been created by our graphics designer, Kiara Allison, so check it out. Go to Instagram and search for Farsight Prime. We're uploading more stills constantly, so you'll want to follow us on Instagram. And again, how do you hear about these things so that you can participate and get the latest when they happen, including our live streams? Well, to start with, we use our email list and YouTube to make our major event announcements. So there are two things you need to do. First, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and remember to click on the notifications bell that appears after you subscribe. That is the only way YouTube will notify you of the new events, especially our live stream events. Just subscribing doesn't do anything. The notifications bell is the important part. But that only notifies you of things that we release on YouTube. To be notified about the things that we release on FarsightPrime.com, which you can watch using our Apple and Android apps or on the web, you need to subscribe to our free email newsletter found on our website at farsight.org. Be sure to do both. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight, and remember to click on the notifications bell, and also subscribe to our free email newsletter that you can find on our website. The links are in the description area below this video. These are how we announce what we do. We never send out spam, and we never give our subscriber list to anyone else for any purpose. Also, you can enable notifications in the settings for our Farsight apps so that the apps can notify you when new content is uploaded. Now, let's review how we did with our last month's Human News forecast, and then we will move on to this month's forecast for January 2021. For December 2020, Human News had sort of a banner month. To begin, it is unambiguous that the Christmas Day Nashville explosion was described by Princess Jeaneé, Kahmia Dunson, and Arkie. In particular, I remember one of Princess's pages in her paper session for that event where she wrote, "Please don't tell me someone is blowing up a city." Also, Arkie's session has the huge outpouring of energy, fallen victims, the nearby state capitol building, the leadership press conferences with an emergency message, and more. The amount of detail in these reports is really quite remarkable. Also, the landslide in Norway was clearly described by Trudy Benjamin. That was one of the largest landslide events ever to affect Norway. Aziz and Melena both described protests or demonstrations of some sort, and anyone who has been watching the news knows that such protests have not been in short supply in December. The election drama continued in the United States in particular, and this was particularly evident in the protests that occurred in Washington, D.C. after the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear the case brought up by the state of Texas, which sought to change the vote in numerous other states. Remember that our research indicates unambiguously that we live in a universe with multiple timelines. That is a real fact, not fantasy or science fiction. The science of how that can be is largely fleshed out, even if the majority of mainstream physicists have not yet wrapped their heads around it. So, in a situation of multiple timelines, there is no single future that we can identify and describe, since there are an infinite number of past and future timelines. But there are averages, so to speak, across the distribution of timelines, and our viewers have been highly accurate in forecasting the general nature of the news events each month, even if there have been differences in some of the details. So keep watching each month and see if you can resist the realization that remote viewing is real and truly need to know. And with respect to all of our work here at Farsight, it is what you need to know. Now, let's move on to this month's Human News forecast for January 2021. Remember, we could always be wrong, and all remote viewing must be seen as an experiment, not a certainty. But look at the data for yourself and make your own decisions, and then let's watch the month of January roll out to see what actually happens. We are going to present these reports thematically this month. First, there are 4 reports that seem to suggest a major disruption in an urban area, possibly explosive. We have 4 such reports by Princess Jeaneé, Kahmia Dunson, Arkie, and Trudy Benjamin. Now, these reports seem to suggest destruction, but also something in the air. Trudy's report may be of a different event, but the idea of people having difficulty breathing makes me wonder if this is the same event. And then Aziz and Melena report on large assemblies in which speeches made by leaders seem to be a major element. These reports are amazing to watch, and it is best if you watch them yourself without me trying to explain them in advance. So let's begin. However, I will return after all of the reports are presented to help pull everything together.
So for my first visual, I'm having land with a pointed structure or mountain. I see a lot of energetics or what looks like fireworks raining down or coming towards or away from the structure. I can't tell if it's coming towards it or coming from it. there's a lot of energetics coming from and or above or towards this structure, or what seemingly feels both natural and man-made, possible mountain here. For my second visual, I have seemingly what looks like a city on land here, with multiple structures and a very large central structure here. It seems to also have a lot of mini structures around. There's a lot of land here with, again, a lot of energetics and foliage here, just near and above and around this city. For my third visual, I'm getting a whirlwind of energetics. Looks like possible tornado. Near and around structures, and they just cover around it, hover around it. Looks like there's a lot of swirling energy near and around these structures. And my fourth visual, I again here have what appears to be mountains, with land. Near a city, structures, urban environment, multiple. Around this city, again, here are my swirling energetics. Near or around the city, on top of, over, I'm uncertain, but it's within this urban environment near mountains.
For my first visual, I have, it looks like a bay surface here with level topography. There's land here, man-made and natural land. Both of them have level topography. There's a ton of surface structures here, so it looks almost like a city. Right, surface structures everywhere. There are subjects here, many subjects. So, like I said, city vibes. And then there seems to just be this, big, like, expanding thing. Got the city with a lot of subjects, a lot of surface structures. And then there's this thing in the sky that looks like a circle, but it's surrounded by other things. It looks like this, like that, and then it kind of like expands outward like that. But then it kind of like, it feels like almost like they're energetics. So I've got a lot of energetics surrounding this sort of thing in the sky. And then from there, I see on the base surface some sort of, it looks like some sort of hole or something in the ground directly underneath this object and the energetics in the sky. Some sort of man-made land that seems to be right here, and it feels kind of dry, and it looks dark in color. So there's also cool temperatures here, but it feels like there's something is giving off a lot of heat. I can feel the warmth like on the structures, the warmth around these energetics, but outside of that, it's very cold here. There is a lot of man-made sounds, a lot of rumbling sounds. So for my second visual, I again have this level topography going on, but I see this giant ball of energetics. It's huge. It's kind of in the central, so it's like this, and then from here it expands outwards like this way on the base surface, but then also it expands upward into the sky, and so it's just like energetics like everywhere, all in the sky, energetics, all in the sky. You can just feel it and see it everywhere. It seeps off the base surface as well. Like it just is ever so expanding, and right next to all these structures, there's like, you know, like I said, that city earlier, there's a whole bunch of structures just over here, getting hit with this heat that I feel going on. Now, for some reason, it feels like there's subjects here, but it feels like a lot of the subjects have like left the area. It feels like some subjects kind of linger here, but for the most part, I feel like there should be subjects here, but they've all kind of dissipated somewhere else. Right. So then, I just feel this explosive, multi-directional energetics, and I can just see, it looks crazy, y'all. Like, it looks crazy. It's like, it comes up here, then I can see it like back here in the distance, like behind all these structures as well. So not only is it in the sky, on the ground, above, like it's everywhere. It's like energetics. And there's just this big hole-looking thing, like I said here, this big man-made hole-looking thing in between these structures. And there's some sort of non-surface structure in the sky that is here when this whole like explosion or storm thing happens. And so I kind of want to figure that out. So moving on to this non-surface structure in the sky, it looks like a giant like cross in the sky. You know what I mean? Like it's got this, it's like long, and then it's got like things on it. So it looks like that. But I can feel this is somehow connected to this, and there's this thing that looks like this, and it looks like as it hits the ground or comes from the ground, because there's just so much energetics going on, and it really feels like it could have either came from the ground or it came from this non-surface structure. And then from there, there's energetics everywhere, like everywhere. So this is kind of the motion that I feel, the linear motion between the non-surface structure and the base surface, the connectivity between those two, and whatever this man-made object is. That doesn't have like any subjects inside of it, or it feels pretty solid to me as well. It's very smooth, and it doesn't really have a smell to it, but it's some sort of man-made object. And then, like I said, like energetics, y'all, everywhere, all up in the sky. It covers this non-surface structure too. Like it covers this non-surface structure. It covers this non-surface structure, and it covers the ground, all these energetics. Now, when it comes to this non-surface structure, I don't really feel like there's any subjects in there, or there's one subject in there. Like, I don't think there's any subjects inside this non-surface structure. But yeah, so obviously something drops or something comes up, and like energetics everywhere. There's some sort of explosive energetics going on here. Anyway, so yeah, all these energetics in the sky, and I can just really feel the that radiating energy giving off. Like it feels like the aftermath of something. It feels like something has already happened and I'm being hit by an afterblast. You know what I mean? Moving to the cause of this whole explosion, first thing I see is a bunch of subjects. I mean, not a bunch. It looks kind of like maybe like 4 subjects here, and they all look like they're in this confined space. These subjects feel mostly male. Like I feel like there's probably like 1 female here, but majority of these subjects are male. And overall, I just feel this need to like protect or some sort of security. It feels like these people are very anxious and nervous and worried, just so we can have a nice little photo op. Normal looking subjects here, they all look like relatively the same for the most part. And they all look like they're all just kind of standing around, like I said, in this confined space that's got this like big window looking thing on there too. So just, you know, there's in some sort of room, feels like they're having a meeting, a conversation, and the overall feeling of this conversation is like stress, anxious, worried, security, protection. It feels like they're trying to prevent something, or not necessarily prevent, but like, you know, keep themselves safe. So there's some sort of safety measure happening here, some sort of security meaning behind all of this stuff that's going on. I also feel like this was planned, or like they knew it was happening, right? They don't seem surprised. Like, yes, they feel like we have to protect ourselves, you know, secure this or something, but it's almost like they're unfazed about whatever this is, about all this energetics. They knew about it, they know about it. These subjects feel a lot older than me. They feel like they're in their 60s or like, you know, 70s, like around that age, older. They have pale skin, and they have on these like, feels like really like sturdy, like nice clothing, you know, like I tug on that thing and it's like, definitely not Forever 21. It's not gonna rip, yo. It's not gonna rip. But yeah, just these subjects knew this was happening, planned this stuff, unfazed. It's all about securing something, keeping someone safe, and yeah, just a big explosive energetics in some sort of city. And you know, obviously there's no subject. I didn't feel any subjects here, so maybe area has been cleared out. But yeah, that's all I have for this target.
Okay, Rock, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We are on Human News, and this is for January 2021, and we are recording this in December 30th, 2020. So this is your remote viewing session, forecasting some of the events that will happen in the month of January. I should mention to the audience that Rock uses a form of remote viewing that gets a variety of different sketches, and sometimes those sketches are not related to the same event. They can be different events that happen in different places, as would be normal in a normal news month where various things happen. And one of the things that we're looking for in his sessions in particular is if the sketches have a coherency to them. So that would indicate that the event is one event rather than separate events. Could be one complex event, but all around a general similar theme. So as we go through Rock's session, let's ask whether this looks like one big thing or multiple scattered things that happen throughout the month. Rock's accuracy has been really great. And Rock, why don't you take it away with page 2,
so
S4.
in this first shot, I captured a large ship, and I really got a sense that it was a container ship versus a military or some other type of ship. But there was extensive damage on the aftermost end, the rear end. Fire was aft, explosions. I saw smoke, flurry of activity on board the ship, and that was pretty much that tile.
Okay, well, we now have to ask if this is just a random isolated event on a container ship or if it's something coordinated with the rest of the session. So let's march right on through to the next
Now
page.
the next page is somewhat troublesome. I have an urban area. I highlighted it's a mass casualty event. Screams, commotion, concussive explosions, and I had a highlight here, some beyond repair. So as I reflect on that, is that humans or structure, but some beyond repair. And since it was mass casualty and I show multiple figures down on the ground, I would assume that the some beyond repair means indicating death to some of the people caught up in this catastrophe.
Well, that's interesting. So we have an explosive event on a container ship in the water, and now we have a major destruction event inside an urban area. They have a similar theme, things blowing up. Anyway, we'll continue through the session and see what we can see if these are two separate random events or if there's something tying things together. So why don't you go on to page 4?
This is a very large structure, heavily guarded, lots of activity. Aircraft seems to be overhead, and I saw visuals of helicopters overhead. A lot of commotion in a cordoned off area or a secure area. People, vehicles, a lot of movement. But really got, and you can see this, tried to depict it. It's like almost a fortified area, expansive.
Well, it has a military feel for sure, and it certainly looks like whatever's happening, people are on high alert. Is that where you get that
I got
sense?
the sense of movement, not necessarily the high alert. I didn't capture that, but a lot of activity.
I see. A lot of activity. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's go on to the next page, page 5. What do you see there?
So we've had this on occasion. We've had what looks like a presidential speech, a presidential messaging from his podium. What was unique about this view is I got a real sense that he was in a container, and I call that container an aircraft, and that the president, it's presidential-like, is messaging, whether he's messaging from the aircraft live, I don't know, or just messaging, but the other point was while en route. So indicating some level of travel on board an aircraft, but there is some communication going on that is outside of something we would normally see, because this is outside of something I would normally see or depict.
Yeah. Well, you have a container ship that experiences an explosive event. You have a major destruction event with loss of life in an urban area. And then you have some type of a address. Looks like a presidential type thing and an Air Force One type thing happening inside the jet. And then you have, previous to that, you had a sort of some type of facility with a lot of activity with helicopters and stuff. So it's starting to have a ring and feel of a coordinated sort of single type of complex event rather than separate things. Because you don't have like a mountain having an eruption of a volcano, you don't have a flood or anything. They're having a sort of a similar, things are seeming to tie together. So why don't we go to the next one on page 6? Oh, you have ospreys
Yeah, and
again.
I've tripped up on these ospreys on occasion in the last several months. It's a reoccurring theme, and these ospreys happen to be in or around a boundary between land and water. I picked up that sense of the vast expanse of the water and the land coming as what we call an obstacle, that interface. But and really 5, 6, 10, 20, it's multitudes of ospreys. They're on the move. That's what I picked up. That sense of heavy military aircraft moving. If you've ever happened to witness them fly by, it's pretty impressive.
So, and that's along a coast. That's interesting. All right, well, Rock, this is beginning to have a similar look and feel. Presidential address, you have a facility that has a lot of helicopter and other
But wait, there's
activity
more.
going on. Destruction in an urban area, and
I said,
now
but wait, there's more.
go ahead. Yeah, but wait, there's more. What's going on in the next page?
So
Page
what
7.
on earth could that be? Well, that's a probably a not great rendition of an overhead shot of large military vessels repositioning in transit, a movement. What I picked up was a shift in
I see.
where they were to where they needed to be, like a rapid movement shift.
So these are
Yeah,
naval
that's
vessels.
what I picked up. I think if you can see a couple
Okay, well that sounds like an aircraft carrier
task force of some sort.
task force. Yeah, where they have aircraft carriers are never by themselves. They always have a fleet of ships around them, and that may be what that is. So it looks like they're heading in some direction. Okay, so what do we have with looks like the political side of things has been activated on page 8.
Yeah, my, that wasn't a surprise. And like we all know, we can be eclipsed by AOL's and analytic overlay, where our consciousness is perturbing the remote view information, if you will. I don't know that this is the case. After the fact, I'm looking at it and I'm just sort of smiling, going, goodness. What could this be? And I have a large area, theater-like, official, Congress-like, a lot of commotion. And I got the sense of pretty much deadly serious behind the podium. And some sort of decree is an outcome of this meetup.
Yeah, now that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at that word decree. Now, typically a decree is something that comes out of the presidential office, and then Congress interacts with it in some way. I'm not really sure what happens, to be quite honest. But Congress either approves it or looks at it or does something. But I don't think a decree can come out of Congress. I think Congress can respond to a decree. But it's clearly a political element to this session. So this, at least in my reading of your data, this looks like it's more of a coherent set of things that are happening related to one thing. It has both a military and a political side to it. Well, I don't know, that's just me. Okay, Rock, why don't you tell us what's going on the next page,
So that
page
could
9.
be a fit to everything else we've been talking about. I've got an urban area, a density of population along this roadway, and then some some vehicles moving in a procession-like, motorcade-like stance, multiples of vehicles going from A to B, but has some heavy vehicles, some different type of vehicles. And I just got the sense that it was a tight procession or motorcade. Nothing else,
A
actually.
motorcade. So that's yeah. Well, presidents travel in motorcades. Dignitaries
right.
sometimes travel in motorcades, but clearly it seems like a political element has been mobilized. All right, let's go to the next one because this was a little
Yeah, this
confusing
one
to
has
me.
this
What's
one has
happening on
weird
page
all
10?
over it. So as I was in this session taking a shot, I get a large, very large gray metal container, a heavy container, and when I probed it, it was that was even more interesting. I'm probing it, and I get a sense of a weapons cache of weapons or ammunition or other mayhem-inducing product that is being stored. And as I just piled through the sensations or frequencies, trying to get a little more detail, I really got a sense that there were multiples of these. And so I wrote down, I see many similar scattered across the country, strategic locations. It seems like potentially, and this is my guess, pre-positioned for some effect.
Now, if there are large caches of weapons pre-positioned, that makes me think that those were governmental caches and that they are planning for something or they're expecting something and they're getting ready for something. I mean, you can hide a bomb in a car or something like that, but large, like container type caches of weapons, multiple scattered all over, that requires a level of organization and capacity that a single person or group normally doesn't have, but a government does have. So
I would argue on the
sounds
side
like-
that the government has plenty of armories to maintain securely their weapons cache, if you will, and that's a pretty status quo effect. They would have no reason to pre-position. They've got the machinery, the vehicles.
Well, it's true, except if the caches had to be placed in urban areas where
Right.
the armories are not. If they were expecting civil unrest in an urban area, then the
wanna be
caches
prepared.
might be. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of because I can't think of a terrorist organization having multiple large container caches.
Well, we saw these
But,
mysterious
maybe.
piles of bricks that were dropped off in major cities for use by some of the antagonists, which was
Yeah, but
it's not a
this
pile
doesn't
of bricks.
look like
Absolutely not.
piles
Yeah,
of bricks.
That's not the sense I got at all. This had sort of danger written all over it. So
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll find out. Let's go on to the next page, page 11.
yeah. So being
That's
an
interesting.
aircraft aficionado and a pilot, I wasn't too surprised when I pulled this out of the session. I don't really have any thought other than I was watching a B-1 or excuse me a B-2 bomber release a weapon at night. It was just a flash. That was it.
That's interesting. The only thing that sort of makes me wonder about this is that I can't see, the B-2 is clearly an American craft. I can't see a B-2 dropping a weapon on American soil. Maybe it will happen one day, but I don't see that as something that's, I don't know. I have trouble believing that, but so it makes me think that this might be an American ship B-2 putting a missile in some other location,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Did they ever use B2s in foreign fights so
It's
far?
possible. I would. Can't answer that.
I don't know if
Can't
they, I
answer
don't
that
remember
question.
them. Did they ever use them in Iraq or Afghanistan?
I
do you
would
know?
think it's very possible. That's something. That's
yeah.
something we can
Well,
vet,
anyway,
or
that's-
our viewers can vet for us.
Yeah, our audience, we really appreciate when you find these events and you make connections between our data and the events. We really rely on you. Actually, we're so busy during the month trying to get our next stuff out that we often don't have time to read the news. So when you actually make the connections and post things on our discussion forums in Farsight Prime or in the YouTube discussion forums, it's very
It's
helpful.
extreme.
We both Rock and I listen to. Read
It's
those
extremely
posts. Go ahead,
helpful, and
Rock.
what's significant is, we don't go combing through the news. I pay attention to things that are happening, and I reflect on the past viewing or session. But sometimes I really get a kick out of reading the viewers and their impression, and that when they bring something significant that happens that they believe matches, it's pretty interesting from a viewer perspective, because if they raise the right signal and you connect with that, you can go, wow, that's exactly what I was depicting, because it has the same in the frame I can use has the same frequency of what we're depicting here. There's a certain sense, a feeling, a knowing, and when you see that happen, and I'll call you straight up and say, hey, Courtney, guess what just happened,
Yeah, I remember when you had the session with the Lebanon bomb, with the Lebanon explosion. That was a pretty powerful wake up. Your sketches of that were remarkable. So let's go down to the last page. It looks like you're in space.
We've
at
been
this
there
point.
several times, and I think the last session we had multiples of satellites that were adjusting, making shifts in their movement, and this was sort of like the B2. It was just a visual of a single object, and from my coaching, put everything down that you get, and that's what I got. I got a satellite.
Well, if there was a major disturbance involving all the elements that you've had here, they certainly would be keeping track of things with satellites.
Yes, they would.
So, if you don't mind, Rock, I would really appreciate it if we could go back to an earlier page where you put everything together, page
S3.
2, S3, and this is where you get a sort of chance to sort of put some sort of everything on one page. And do you get any sense out of this being separate events, or maybe one different aspects of the same event?
It's really hard for me to surmise. I see an interrelationship? I see the potential for that, but I don't even want to hazard a guess. I'll just wait and be enlightened on the other side of this. There are some things that I hope don't occur out of this session.
Yeah, we do have a situation of multiple timelines. Now, that's not science fiction, that's for real. We have been investigating that with numerous experiments at Farsight, and this says that there's no one single future. There's always multiple futures, millions, infinite number of multiple futures, and what we're really interested in is if the probabilities for those futures that have similar types of characteristics are dominating the sort of the terrain of possible futures. That makes it more likely that we're going to run into them. And we see that by having a survey, a sample of the future, and that's why we have multiple remote viewers. And so Rock's session is going to be looked at together with the sessions for all of the other viewers to see if we see any commonalities. And I can say already we do see some obvious commonalities across remote viewers. So that sort of suggests that the likelihood of this type of thing happening increases when we see multiple viewers picking up the same type of a thing.
It seems to me that there's some sort of action whether it's a war or not. There is there's movement and some level of intense activity.
Something's cooking. Okay, so Rock, I want to end this thing by going back even one more page in this session and look at your S2 page. That's on page 1. If you go 4 tiles down, and I will show this to the audience, you have a piece of paper called Executive Order War Powers Action. What did you pick up with that?
That's pretty interesting. That I didn't include that in my drawings, and I don't know if I just absent-mindedly missed it. But I'm glad you're taking me back to it, because that was just floating in the sense of consciousness. And sometimes you see a piece of paper and it's sort of weird. You get the sense of what it is. Is it an AOL or not? But certainly. Yeah. It had the feeling of an executive order with some teeth, war powers and action or activity, which actually is sort of synchronous with all the other stuff we're seeing. Sort of puts it in a wrapper.
It does put it in a wrapper. I don't know who we would be having a war with.
Well, it's
However,
war powers. I would say war powers is different than having a war, right?
Yeah, having a war. Oh, I see. So that would be Congress granting war capabilities to the president. Is that right?
It just gives extended powers under a supercritical situation.
Yeah. Now, I have to mention this to the audience. This does not mean that the U.S. or any other country is going into war, or that any type of declaration of war is going to be happening. That does not say that for the month of January. It's just that Rock gets that sense of some type of military thing, and he's got the sense of the War Powers Act, and we don't know if it's going to happen in our timeline or it may happen in another timeline, but I don't want the audience thinking that we're forecasting a major war. There seems to be some disturbance that seems to be very significant, but I just want to calm the audience down. We are not forecasting a war for January. But
not at all. Just a lot of heightened activity. That's obvious.
Heightened activity, yeah. All right, Rock, thanks so much. And we will see what the future brings for this next 30 days. We don't have long to wait.
Thank you.
I continue to see a crowd of subjects on the base surface of land and sparks of energetics, like a crowd inside of a base surface structure and outside of a base surface structure. But there's lots of energetics nearby. I also visualize that this crowd of subjects or multiple subjects are being told to do something. I'm sensing like lots of energetics above the base surface. It's kind of like sparks, but the sounds are loud and the subjects are like, there's different crowds of subjects. The subjects on the inside of the structures on the base surface are being told to not do something. And I'm sensing like frantic things happening on the inside with these subjects. It's like very crowded. I'm sensing struggling. Something stinks, or someone's trying to like, I'm not getting very good smells. It's either something's not supposed to be smelled or the smell is too strong. I'm sensing struggling by the subjects on the inside of these structures, but I keep hearing someone like repeat like instructions, something that's similar to like telling somebody to do something over and over and over again while they're frantic. And then there's energetics on the outside. There's the subjects on the inside. Then there's subjects on the base surface of the ground, outside, inside of a man-made environment. I'm still sensing a crowd, but it's kind of like rows of subjects. It's a focused gathering. I'm sensing they're all doing the same thing. The base surface is, it's like they're surrounding these structures. And these subjects are being asked if they are doing something or if they don't have something, or like, I'm just sensing multiple objects in hands. But the energetics is loud nearby. The energetics is just sparks. I continue to see sparks, but bright light. And in the process of these subjects on the inside of this area or this city or these large structures, the loud banging sounds are either coming from the inside of the structure or outside above the structure. I'm sensing the subjects on the outside aren't struggling at all. They're actually just a focused gathering. I'm not sensing emotions of negativity or positivity. I'm sensing it's just like detached. I don't know. I'm continuously thinking about someone asking over and over. Lots of questions to these subjects, but these subjects are like, you can't hear them. There's this loud banging noise. It's obnoxiously loud from energetics. All over the sky. It's multiple colors of there's objects in their hands, and I continue to sense like these subjects either want to be here or these subjects are not allowed to be here. Something about this is like a focused gathering about being outside in this specific area, or a focused gathering about not being here in this area. There's also a lot of movement. Like, I continue to feel frantic about this. Whether it's movement by structures or an object, I'm sensing lots of up and down movement by these energetics. I'm going to deep mind probe the subjects on the base surface outside of these structures. There's multiple structures on the base surface that are filled with subjects on the inside, but the subjects on the outside of the base surface is near foliage. They're on level topography. There's multiple subjects. There's a focused gathering. I'm sensing a crowd. Mainly, the crowd is a mixture of genders. I'm not sensing a specific gender, but I'm sensing that these people are in order or in an orderly fashion, or they're just like in rows. I'm not sure to describe the shape of how they're standing next to each other, but I'm sensing that there's rows of subjects evenly distributed, like a specific number. These subjects are all in the same location on the base surface outside of the structures. These large structures in front of them. There's still energetics, sensing loud banging energetics. If you were to look downward in an aerial view, I'm sensing like there's a dark color of the sky. I'm sensing it's very dim colored. On the inside of these structures are still subjects. A lot of subjects, a crowd, multiple subjects. But the subjects on the inside are focused on not doing something again. I keep hearing that word, and I'm also sensing the temperature outside is very cold. These subjects are like wearing a lot of hefty body wear, like the outfits are thick and really big, but like heavy, and they feel warm. Like compared to like the temperature of the environment, these subjects feel much more warmer than the actual air. Noticing these subjects are focused on, I'm sensing they're focused on breathing. Something about their breath is like they're having either struggles to breathe, or the air they're breathing is causing struggles with breath. I'm sensing a lot of pressure because of what they're wearing, like hefty pressure. I'm noticing that the multiple subjects on the outside are like learning about something or searching for something, or they're looking for something. They're looking at something. There's like a focused gathering of looking, and they're also thinking about like their breathing, inhaling, and I'm sensing the temperature's really freezing outside. Like in this environment, I'm not sensing any snow, but the temperature is almost similar to like snowy temperature, very freezing, cold, timid. Subjects just standing still. I don't even sense activity. I don't sense any movement at all from these subjects. They're still and alive. I'm sensing these subjects are human, and the subjects on the inside of these structures are human as well. But something that continues. What are they trying not to do again? Sensing activity is something that they're trying not to do again. The subjects on the inside are safe. I'm not sensing much activity from these subjects on the inside either. The activity is little to no movement. I'm not sensing much movement, but the only movement I'm sensing is from these energetics in the sky. The sky is very dim because of it, or around it, dim or dark. I'm sensing these lights are bright and glowing. The subjects on the base surface outside are like searching for something. And trying not to start something. I keep feeling like there's something that's going to start or begin, or something that they're focused on is about not starting something again. And the subjects on the inside are thinking about the same thing. But they're two completely different groups of subjects. I'm sensing the things they're wearing are different from what the subjects on the inside are wearing clothes that are different from the subjects on the outside. But these subjects are all wearing clothes that are similar to each other, like really big, hefty, heavy, dark colored clothing. And it's a small focused gathering. There's less subjects outside than there is on the inside of these base surface structures. Something that these subjects are thinking about on the inside of these structures are making these subjects feel very emotional. They're trying not to do something, and the subjects on the outside are like struggling to breathe, and they're studying something, or they're watching something. There's focus on something. They're looking for something. Trying not to have something or start something completely new, or they're starting something new, or this is a new thing. Like, I'm also noticing the thoughts of something dangerous being avoided. Like, they're thinking of something dangerous while they're in a safe environment. Like, I'm sensing these subjects are thinking about something that's dangerous, but the environment's completely safe.
Okay, Aziz, so we are here with Human News, and you have a very interesting session, and why don't we just dive into it? And so I'm looking at it, just for the audience's sake, we're going to be skipping the first couple pages of the session. Remember, the session was done on paper and pen, and with this format that we're using now, the interview format, we're going through the paper and pen session, and Aziz is describing what he got on that. So without further ado, let's jump in. I'm starting here on page 4 of your session, and remember, the audience will be seeing these pages up on their screen when we edit it and produce the final video, so they'll see what you're talking about. So why don't you take it away, Aziz?
All right, so here we are at page 4. I've got my session pages off to the side over here. Yeah, so we've got an urban environment, multiple subjects, some cooler temperatures, and that seems to be the gist about what's going on, labeled topography, so yeah.
All right, well, it looks like an urban environment. So it looks like your page 5 is pretty much the same thing, this type of urban environment. The only difference I'm seeing in page 4 and 5 is you drew a lot of people on the streets with page 4.
Yeah, and there was just a slightly taller structure. No indication that that's actually a point of super importance. It's just that was the center of my attention when doing the flash sketch itself. All
right, good. All right, so let's move on now to page 6. You're still in that same area, though we have a little bit more detail about the area.
Yeah. So off to the side, you can see that there's a little bit of a small body of water, some foliage, but still overall, this is generally an urban area and an urban environment. So, still with the flat, regular topography also.
And still with subjects on the street.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and your big sketch on page 7 looks like just another focus on that tall structure.
Yeah, it's just, this is another structure and some grayish hues on it, and it looks like modern architecture.
It's interesting, that structure, because that's sort of like a skyscraper type vertical structure. It'll be interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next page on page 8, and that plus page 9, your bigger sketch, seems to be some activity going on.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of confusion on my part with page 8 because my probes sort of seemed to show that there was a vertical surface to one side, but on the other side it seemed to be a lot more space before I hit another vertical surface. But it did also seem like there was a ceiling, so I had the feeling that I was indoors at this time, and the subjects that were present here were in a far more rigorous formation and not as much of activity of moving around. They seemed to be more of a seated in rows sort of type of environment. And so yeah, you can see also I wrote, is this really indoors with a question mark, because just because of that space before I hit a vertical surface on one side that was a lot farther than the other side. But that could be a lot of different things. So I'm making the guess that I'm indoors just because of the ceiling. And yeah, I got some red hues, tan hues, a lot of subjects, and it seemed to have been a focused gathering focused on S1, which was another subject that seems to be forward in front of the rest of the subjects, sort of on a bit of an elevated platform.
I'm wondering if this could be outside also. Also, it's cold this time of year, so yeah, so let's go on to page 9. So that seems to suggest it's inside that this speech is going on.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the only thing that really made me think maybe this was outside was just the amount of space that I had to one side as opposed to the other side before hitting a vertical surface, and which would be just a wall. But yeah, I'm going with the perceptions of this being an indoors environment, and that's just a clearer picture of what I've been seeing. There are other subjects that don't seem to be in that rigorous formation of being in rows that are just one after the other. You can see that there's a couple of other subjects off to the side, and still focused gathering, and there's a subject in front of everybody that is seemingly male and holding an arm out, sort of like he's making a speech or something like that.
Well, you know, the interesting thing here for me is the rows. The subjects are clearly organized. They're sitting in a pattern. So this seems to be some type of organized assembly. And if it is outside, it would still be an organized assembly. So, interesting. Okay, so let me see. Let's actually move on to the weather page.
Okay.
And that'll be page 10.
Page 10. Yeah, so it's well, in terms of just movement and activity, which is what I was probing for on page 10, it just seems to be mild activity, nothing really chaotic or extravagant, and it was subject activity. The subjects were moving, just arms moving, bodies moving, but it doesn't seem to be anything that seems extreme, and that doesn't indicate anything that is chaotic in nature or highly energized or volatile.
Okay. So we're not having any, this is not a place of protests or anything like that?
No, I didn't get that vibe at all.
No, okay. So why don't we move on to anything? Is there, no, we don't need the map page for right now. The map page, for those in the audience who want to know, where there's a page where we actually go up higher and higher and look down to sort of see where things are, then we go down, and on the surface we go to the left, to the right, and front and back, considerable distance to sort of try to draw up a map. But we get pretty much what's there on page 18, so why don't you just take us there, son?
Yeah, so on page
Actually,
13
this is 13,
here,
yeah, page 13.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on page 13 here is a big bird's eye view, about a mile up, looking down, and I see this expansive urban area. At the edges of that urban area, there's some green hues, some foliage areas, and some other areas that seem to be more tan with less foliage, and some browner hues environments. So it just seems like a typical modern urban expansive area. So that just seems what it
Yeah,
looks
but
like.
some interesting things there is we have a tall structures, some skyscrapers that look pretty tall, and you have that one pointed structure, and then there's water on the sides. Actually, sort
Yeah,
of.
so there is a pointy structure out in one area and some more boxy skyscraper-y type of structures off in a different area of the urban area.
And the land, do you think, is pretty flat?
Yeah, I didn't really see anything that would constitute noticeable irregularities in the topography.
Okay, so that sort of rules out San Francisco, although this looks a lot like San Francisco, but it also looks like Washington D.C. in a way, because you have the monument, the pointed structure.
Oh yeah, the pointed structure. Yeah, it does sort of hint towards.
But it doesn't
something
have
like
the
that.
Capitol building type of a sense to it. Well, it'll be interesting to see what this is. Okay, so why don't we go on to page 14?
Great. Yeah, so moving to the center of the target, it's just back in that indoors environment, seemingly indoors environment. By this time, it seems that it's just a subject who's talking, yelling loudly, and it's just a focused gathering that seems to be listening. And I'm getting sort of red, brown, tan hues for the general hues of the environment besides them. And it's well lit. It seems artificial
well-lit,
lighting, and it seems well lit.
And
yeah.
the subject giving the talk was a man, you think?
Yeah, it's just seems like a male subject. I have more pictures pertaining to him.
Okay, let's go on then to the next page. Page 15, is that?
Yeah, page 15. So this is just probing for the target activity, and still getting sort of this same type of scenes, just a main subject talking while there's an audience of subjects that are listening. So that just shows that this is the main activity of this news event. So.
Okay. All right, so now you're zooming in close to the subject's face on page 16.
Yeah. So those are just sort of the impressions I got of what the man's face looks like. And I did do a deep mind probe here, so I got some emotional feedback. And the emotions that really came up was sort of a mix of sort of a conflicting emotions. So I have relief, but also tense and being sort of exhausted. So it's sort of like, not saying that this was a physical action, but if you imagine just running a marathon, you're relieved, you're tense because you were really amped up doing something, and also just the sense of exhaustion. Just so this person obviously is at the tail end of going through something that may or may not be expressed in what they're talking about. These are just personal emotions at this time when
Interesting.
the target's taking place.
And again, you have the talking to a formal gathering, so this is not something spontaneous.
No, yeah, it's like what you said. It looks like an assembly type of thing. Also, moving on to the thoughts part of the deep mind probe.
Yeah, let's go after that, because you did this deep mind probe. You got the emotions of relief and yeah. So go ahead and a little bit of exhaustion, and then your thoughts. What are the thoughts you've got from the guy?
So the thoughts, just basically for listeners who are curious, that's more just the logical side of the mind, and from the logical side, it is sort of along the lines of what the emotions were, which is normal. There's this impression of something that took a long time to get to this point, and that hints towards a connection with the whole exhaustion and the relief sense. A collective ideology perspective. So this is not just him. It's not like he's the only one going through whatever he went through. This is sort of like a team effort, of which at this point in time, it seems like he is a spokesperson for. Just he's responsible talking about something, and it may not be that he's talking about what he's feeling. So I just want to be clear about that. This is a deep mind probe as to the emotions and the logical side of the mind at this point in time. So yeah, it's just it's not just him informing the focused gathering. So yeah, this is he has this collective idea, so he's part of a team of some sort, and spreading information on behalf of the larger group, not separate from the gathering of subjects. And that was an interesting probe as well, because the idea that he's not separate from the gathering of subjects, it gives the impression of this is like he's representing a team, but he doesn't feel this sense of separation with the people that he's talking to. So it's sort of a unified body, or a universal mentality in the sense.
He's preaching to the choir.
I guess so, yeah.
All right, Aziz, this is great. Well, this is going to be a big thing. And of course, everyone's thinking this might be Joe Biden giving the inaugural address or something like that. But there's some other things in this that make me think that may not be the inaugural address. But whatever it is, it's a news story. It's a big news story. And we're going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, it could be a lot of things. It's you've got what you just said with Joe Biden. It could be, I mean, we really just have it's a male, so it could be Donald Trump. It could be somebody who has nothing to do with politics. So
yeah, well, if it was Donald Trump giving a speech like that, that would actually make sense, because it could be in a different location than Washington, D.C.
Yeah, also the idea of it being or not being Washington, D.C., you don't really know, because when we were doing the M4 sketch, that's a full mile above, so it's noticing just stuff that sort of peaks out in terms of the structures that are just peeking out in terms of height are more noticeable than something like a Capitol building, which is relatively short.
Yeah, now but the audience should know that the M4 sketch is something that we didn't show you, but that's the map page where we go up high distance, look around, and so on like that. So, yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see what this month is going to bring in terms of that, and we'll compare this with the other viewers as well. So Aziz, thank you very much. This is great. We'll see.
Thanks. Yeah,
okay.
It's great.
For my first visual, I have this flatland area, an urban area environment, structures around, they're like almost together, have the same look. There's objects here. Looks like man-made moving objects like vehicles. I'm seeing water and just flat land, just a flat area with just structures around, and it's just look like an open area. There are plenty of subjects around this area, all over this flat, grassy land. And I'm seeing subjects in front of this structure. Looks very formal. A group of people look very important in this area in front of the structure. For my second visual, a close-up of the structure and those people, that looks very important. They're standing in front, looking towards the rest of the subjects that are kind of distant from them. A few close subjects are in the crowd here in front, but there's like these female subjects standing here in front.
Looks like they're waving. Some subjects are in like this uniform and some are in formal clothing. They're standing near this mixture crowd of subjects, mostly female and male. Subjects look a bit young, some are old. It's just a different age mix. A bit of excitement in this area in front of this structure. Seeing a lot of flashy lights here coming from the crowd and a few by these subjects, but they have so much attention. These group of subjects or form of subjects have so much attention right now. Is so many like lights and loud noises. And the temperature here is very cold. It seemed like some outside activity with a crowd, and this subject here is a female. I'm picking up a female subject. This female subject standing near other female subjects. There's male subjects around the area too. Seems like they're all working around, and it's just this crazy crowd. It's a very busy area, and it just like messy and organized at the same time. I'm also getting a metallic object above, moving around above this whole live crowd. Everything seems okay so far. So moving to the center, I'm seeing like different color and like clothing subjects are wearing. And there's like different crowds. Like majority of this crowd, I'm seeing like just colorful colors, just different colors like of people, and they're just happy and very excited. These subjects are mainly in front of the structure where there's the female subjects standing, and there's also a crowd in the distance, like not too far, and they're way more rowdier. Don't look too happy. A lot of mean faces, older subjects. It's pretty crazy here. These subjects here seems to not like these female subjects near the structure. It's like it's a happy crowd and there's a mean crowd. These subjects that are against this whole crowd, mostly male, nothing religious, just they're not with a certain lifestyle or choice. This is it's a lot of hate here and love at the same time. It's pretty intense. These subjects, I'm seeing like signs and a lot of physical behavior, like mad. It's like these subjects are very violent here compared to these real nice, cheerful subjects here. So back to the subjects in front of the building, I'm seeing this I see this female subject who people love. She looks like she's in her late 40s, have like this dark tone hair, a little highlight of like a lighter tone, but seeing like a brownish tone. She's very like smiley. Have like a medium skin tone, not dark or like not too dark and not too light. She has this formal business clothing on, and people seem to be with her, and she seems very protective around the people she's around. It's like I'm seeing other female subjects, but they're in like this uniform. Their uniform is very like baggy, and they wear hats. It's pretty cold here, so these subjects are definitely covered in very like clothing that's keep them warm. But this female subject, she's like very intelligent, she's a good listener, and she's not worried about the hate from the other crowd. Everything seems like almost entertainment in her mind, but mostly just more of a get together and she's here to stay type of attitude.
Okay, so let's draw some conclusions from these data. January 2021 is going to be a really event-filled month. The world does not come apart in January, but it is not all peaceful either. The two major things that seem to happen in January are a major disruptive and potentially violent event occurring in an urban area and what appears to be political speeches. Now, the political speeches part does not seem surprising since there is a presidential inauguration in the United States in January, but the details and the descriptions of those events are sufficient that we will be interested to see how things match up with the events when they occur. So join me in the month of January 2021 as we keep our eyes wide open. These are experiments in remote viewing, and we could be wrong, but our track record with the application of remote viewing is really strong, so let's wait and see what happens during the month. I am sure we will get some things right and some things wrong, but the unique character of these forecasted events is such that we should have no trouble identifying them if and when they occur. So that is it for our January 2021 edition of Farsight's Human News, the news before it happens. Thank you for watching. Please also join us next month in February 2021 for another look into the future of Earth humans. Also, be sure to look for the new releases on FarsightPrime.com this month, including our live stream events, the Farsight ET News, the live intelligence briefing with myself, the next major mysteries release on January 15th, the mystery of Pumapunku, the reboot of our Time Cross show focusing on the apparition of Mary that happened in Fatima, Portugal in 1917, as well as the Farsight economic forecasts. I am Courtney Brown, Director of Farsight.